And welcome to another creative coffee break with myself, Dwynwen from Loch Ness Knitting. This morning I'm joined by Claire from Cookston Crafts. Claire, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you do?
Hi Dwynwen, thanks for asking me along for a cuppa this morning. It's a great way to chat. This is my first Zoom interview, so bear with me. My business, Cookston Crafts, was actually set up 5 years ago. So today was going to be my 5th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
5 years since I started the business. I started literally around the kitchen table teaching people how to crochet, and over time it developed and we did up a stead-in building that we have, and that's what I'm sitting in at the moment. And it became a location for people to come for various other workshops. So there's not just me that teaches now, there's other creatives as well that use the space, which is fab. And then you'll also see behind me all of the hand-dyed yarn. It became a bit of an obsession. So I now hand-dye the yarn and sell it online and at wool shows and festivals all around Scotland. I've done one in England. I've done Yarndale a couple of times, which is great, but that's probably as far as I've ventured with my business.
That's lovely, and I'm so envious that you have a whole building dedicated just to yarn and dyeing. That sounds amazing.
The idea behind it was that this outbuilding was going to be a garage workshop for my husband to do up motorbikes, but he doesn't even own a motorbike. So the wool as well, you know yourself, the business just expands, and the crafty bits and bobs were overflowing the drawers and shelves inside the house, and he was like, you need to have a dedicated space. So now I still can't quite believe that we have this. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And what I particularly love about your yarn, and we can see from the display behind you, is it's very brightly coloured and you do lots of variations and lots of mixes. That is absolutely beautiful. But for people who aren't used to that and mainly choose a solid colour, have you got anything you can show us for how that kind of yarn looks in the finished garments?
Yeah, so I mean, when I first started dyeing yarn, I was all about the rainbows and as much colour as I could throw at it as I could. In time, I think my experience and my taste has changed as well. And, you know, you get to know what perhaps would work as a garment that you're going to wear as well. Some people rock a rainbow and that's brilliant. But for a bit more muted, wearable pieces, I have a couple down here. One of them is a yarn called French Romance. And this one is probably quite pale. You probably can't see it so well. But this is the Tegna sweater. But you can see that there is no real pooling of colour there. And it's very random. And that's what I particularly like to wear and knit with. So it tends to be what I prefer to dye now.
So for those who are new to knitting, let's just tell them what pooling is. They may not have heard that term before.
Yeah, so pooling would be, here's another one I'll hold up. So you'll see this one is very random. And this is the Mackenzie colourway, held with a strand of mohair as well. And what you'll see is there's no real, the pooling of colours where one particular colour kind of collects in one area.
Yeah.
And I prefer a much more random look. So what can happen as you work around a skein of yarn is that when you hit one particular point, you'll hit that blue and then blue again, and it can stack up in an area, and it usually creates a kind of flash across the front. Sometimes they're very, very effective.
Yes.
I saw one the other day that someone had done, and it almost looked like little rainbows in a skirt, which is beautiful. So cute.
Yeah, so sometimes people love that effect and can make it work for them, but the majority of time I think people are not a fan of it One of the things I suggest to people in patterns is to look to things which have got slip stitches or cable stitches to physically break up pooling, but your skill as a dyer to help evenly spread the colours throughout the skeins is something that can really help them before somebody even casts on.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there are ways around it, as you say, like changing the pattern up, alternating your skeins of yarn as well, so working two rows in one skein and 2 rows in another. But let's face it, you end up in a bit of a tangle, and you'll always have that, that extra ridge where you've changed skeins as well. So I prefer to just pick up one ball of yarn and just go with it. And most of the time, I would like to think I get a fairly random result, but not always. And that's part of the fun of hand dyed, isn't it? That you don't know what you're going to get.
Even skeins that you dye in a batch together, sometimes if you knit them individually, you can make 2 hats and they don't look exactly the same. And for me, that's part of the beauty of dyeing.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because I see that as part of its unique makeup. However, if I was I wanted 2 similar hats, or it was a particular project, that could be quite frustrating as well. So I try whenever possible to make, I dye 6 skeins at a time in one tray, and I try to make them as consistent as I can. Consistently inconsistent, does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense to me, so hopefully the people watching will begin to understand that. And one of the best ways to understand it is to actually have a go for yourself. So what kind of things would you recommend if somebody was at home and just wanted to have a play and have a try? So
food colouring is a great way to do it. I've done that before in my son's primary school class. All the kids went home that day with blue hands, and I couldn't be a primary teacher, definitely not. But they had great fun, and we just used yarn and paint brushes, and they literally painted on some food colouring. I used the little pots, I think it's Wilton's, and it's like gel colour, so it's quite a strong pigment to start with. Your standard kind of supermarket food colouring wouldn't work as well, although you would still get a result. But obviously you can use things like natural dyes and, forage like you do. And it's amazing the results that you can get from nature. Personally, I started with a kit from Debbie Tomke's. She runs a business called DT Crafts, and she's a lovely lady, full of knowledge. And she sells little starter kits. So you can get, I think you can do one with 4 dyes, and then you can build up to a deluxe set that's got 10. And that's literally how I started. It's about £30, and you get everything that you need, and a great instruction leaflet as well to just give it a go. Very addictive.
So you could just have a go on your kitchen table. You don't need any sort of special kind of equipment or kind of a laboratory setup. You could just have a play.
No. I would say, honestly, probably the first year that I dyed yarn, and I wasn't dyeing a huge amount, not like what I have just now, but everything was done in my steamer, my kitchen steamer. The only thing to bear in mind, obviously, is that once you've used it for dyes, you're not going to use it again for food. So if you do have a particular big soup pan that you want to use, you want to set that aside for only dyeing and not use it in your kitchen again for food prep. But other than that, I say dive in, have a go. It's fun.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. And one of the things I really enjoy is when people share their results with me online on Instagram. So if you have inspired some people to have a go today, do you have some details where they could share their results with you?
I do. So I'm quite active on Instagram. I absolutely love it. I try and post Insta stories regularly as well. So here is my business card. So my website is www.cookstoncrafts.com, And then my Instagram handle is just at Cookston Crafts, all one word.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my Instagram stories though isn't necessarily all yarn related though. I kind of just point and shoot, and it could be a walk that we've been on. My dog, my Springer Spaniel Stanley, he features on it quite a lot, and so do my kids too. So yeah, a little bit of behind the scenes.
Well, but that's always lovely because we are real people with lives and families, and we live and work in Scotland, which is this beautiful part of the world. So it's nice to share more than just the yarn in our stories.
Sure, definitely. I mean, the nature around us, we're so lucky. I think over time, I've probably moved a little bit more into using the colours around me as inspiration rather than just throwing rainbows at everything. Last year I did a Scottish Landscapes yarn club, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So it was just images of walks that we've done. There was one that was inspired by Forvey Sands, which is really close to us. We're just on the coastline in northeast Scotland, so we have beautiful beaches and hills around us, and it's great to use that as inspiration in my work.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us this morning. It's been really lovely to find out more about your work. And if the people watching would like to see more of the Creative Coffee Break series, there's a whole range of videos on YouTube, and we've got weavers, ceramic artists, painters, textile artists, and now we have Claire with the indie dyeing, and we'll be adding more to the series in future. So thank you for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you.